Right. What do you think, Ollie? Will we get stuck in?
Yeah, we might as well. We don't want
Yeah.
people sitting around for too long. Let's get stuck in.
Yeah, perfect. There we go. So I will start off. Hello and welcome. So we are very excited to have you join us today for our very first HubGem own webinar. The future is now: how HubSpot AI can transform marketing and admissions. So I'm Amy Martos and I'm the Senior Marketing Executive here at HubGem. And we have Ollie Featherstone. He's one of our HubSpot CRM consultants and of course the AI lead that we have. So yeah, we specialise in helping education organisations unlock the full potential of HubSpot and transform the marketing and admissions. Before we dive in, just a couple of quick housekeeping notes. So this session we're in for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and we are recording, so don't worry if you need to jump up early. We'll send you the replay afterwards along with some resources. Feel free to drop in any questions into the Q&A chat box as we go. If we have time at the end for questions, we will of course run through these. If not, feel free to kind of email us these emails as well. So yeah, before we dive in, again, just like to take a moment to introduce ourselves and what we do at HubGem. So we are a HubSpot CRM specialist. We're a solutions partner and we specialise in supporting schools, colleges and universities along with training providers to transform their marketing and admissions and fundraising teams as well. And we're proud to be known for our hands-on sector-specific onboarding services, and whether that's implementing HubSpot from scratch or re-onboarding for a fresh start, or providing bespoke training programs like our AI Masterclass to help your team stay ahead. We've worked with over 100 education organisations and we are very proud to maintain 100% five-star review rating. So that's just a reflection of the relationships we build and the results we help our clients achieve. So whether you're new to HubSpot or looking to unlock more of its potential, our mission at HubGem is to help you work smarter, communicate better and grow with confidence. So yeah, all right, I'm going to pass you on over to Ollie, who will get stuck in.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Amy. So I want to kick things off just by answering this question, because there'll probably be a few of you in the chat, or certainly some people watching the recording, that are probably either a little bit skeptical of what AI is and what it can offer to the team, or perhaps just nervous about adopting it in some of your processes. So why does AI actually matter in education? And specifically, of course, we're talking about the kind of clients we serve in marketing and admissions teams. So there's a few bits on the slide there, but really what this comes down to is creating more efficiency, freeing up more time, and then actually giving you some deeper insights. So just to run through some of the points. So of course, automating some of these tasks, creating that level of efficiency by streamlining those tasks that you have to do day in, day out that are quite manual. AI can, of course, take on some of that, and especially with things like, just sending emails out, just keeping your data clean, automating some of those sort of areas of your process. It's brilliant at doing that. It can also help you, of course, with better decision making using the vast quantity of data it can collect, but it can also present that back to you in a really nice way. So you don't have to go digging for, through loads of data and trying to actually interpret what it's saying. The personalization aspect is huge for the marketing teams that we work with. Students and parents are, almost demanding a personalized experience in our sector. And actually giving that level of personalization, again, can be quite time consuming. It's probably a manual task for you at the moment. And AI can help you do that, not only by presenting this sort of data and giving you a really clear understanding of who these people are that you're interacting with, but it can also drip feed some of these personalized elements into your communications as well without you having to do so manually. Of course, just general conversations, lead nurturing type workflows. There's a lot of automation around that, things like follow-ups, re-engagements with people that have been to your events or people you haven't spoken to with in a couple of months to re-engage them. AI is brilliant at kind of setting those goals and just, if you need to, even carrying out that communication. Reporting kind of ties in with everything, really. AI can just simply give you better overall views on things like your pipeline health, give you really nice reporting on ROI, and of course, with sort of the advanced tracking within HubSpot, it can give you some really nice analytics from general online sources as well. And then finally, scalability is the big one. You know, one of the questions is, how do we continue to personalize? How do we continue to offer this great service, but actually scale and either handle, you know, more inquiries or make our process more appealing? So again, AI, with all of those things I just sort of talked about, can help with that. Ultimately, what we want here is for you to have a competitive edge, stand out, and just be simply more efficient in the way that you're working. So if that hasn't convinced you, then we're going to go through and have a look at some HubSpot tools, show you what HubSpot has to offer. And if you're already using it, then perhaps you can, you know, learn something new. And if you don't know what HubSpot is or haven't used the tools in HubSpot yet, then hopefully this is a bit of a kicker just to give you some motivation to go and try it out. So we are, like I said, going to jump into some common questions and go through some demos rather than just slide after slide of me sort of talking through it. But the general gist of what we're going to go through is kind of split up into 3 areas. So HubSpot's AI suite is called Breeze. And within that, there are sort of 3 elements. You've got Copilot, which not actually Microsoft Copilot, but very similar, same name, is your AI assistant. So you can ask it questions, you can ask it to do things for you in a sort of chatbot functionality within the account. You've also then got your agents. At the moment, there are 4 sort of default ones in the account. Think of these as almost you hiring a new team member to do a job, but it's doing that for you within HubSpot. And then finally, we've got the intelligence features, which are actually slightly different, a little bit more advanced. And these are all around enhancing the data that you've got and actually plugging in gaps where you might be missing data. Now, that's kind of what you'll that's the sort of suite of 3 things that you'll kind of be focused on when we talk about AI. But there are other areas and other tools within HubSpot that are AI powered as well. We'll look at a few of those today. So just look out anywhere in your HubSpot account that has sort of that diamond logo there on the right hand side, means it's got some sort of AI functionality that we can have a look at. So I'm going to stop sharing and jump across into HubSpot. And Amy, I believe you've got some questions for me that we're going to have a look at.
Yeah, I do. So the first is in regards to Copilot. So how do I interact with Copilot and make sure it is set up right for my team?
Yeah, perfect. So that's going to be the starting point, of course. So hopefully you can see a HubSpot screen in front of you now. So that's going to be the key to actually getting started, is where do I find this thing? And also, how do I set it up to make sure it's working for me and my team? So I'm just on one of my dashboards here within our account. And you'll notice in the sort of top taskbar next to your sort of education name, your account name, you will have the Copilot logo. And that is where you will go in and access the Copilot chatbot type functionality from anywhere where that taskbar is in the account. As you'll see here, it's kind of a chat function. So I had a chat going on here previously. I can go ahead and browse any of my previous chats, so I don't have to keep asking it the same things again. I can go ahead and pick up from where I might have left off. And of course, I can start a brand new chat and ask it to do something else as well. In terms of actually getting that functionality on the screen and those options there for you, there are some settings you may have to play around with. So we'll jump into settings using the little cog in the top taskbar. And then on the left-hand side, under account management, you may or may not have seen a relatively new option called AI. This is where you're going to want to come first off to actually decide what level of access does HubSpot have and personalizing sort of what it can do for you. So the first screen you'll come to is a load of tick boxes, pretty much just allowing or not allowing the AI to use your data and use various sort of tools and aspects of the account. If you want to have access to Copilot like I just did there, you'll need to make sure that you have this bottom option ticked, give access to Copilot, or give your users in the account access to Copilot so they can go ahead and use it. You then do have some level of control over how much of your data and what sort of sections of your data the AI tools can have access to. So the first toggle is just giving your data access for the generative AI models. So where we might want to ask it to draft an email for us, for example. And then below that, you have some more specific ones. So you can give it access to your full sort of suite of CRM data of your contacts and your deals. You can give it access to your customer conversation data. so emails, chats, recordings, whatever it is. And then you've also got files as well. So if you're if you're asking them to perhaps upload some documents on a form, can it actually access those files as well? So you can lock this down depending on how sensitive your data might be. And of course, if you actually want it to be able to draw on that. It is worth mentioning, based on that HubSpot's AI, this sort of chatbot, this Copilot implementation, it's not like Google Gemini or ChatGPT, where it then just trains its models and gives everyone access to your data and everyone can ask it a question. This is limited to your account, but it's still got those tailored options there. Data sources is the other tab, and it's worth coming in here and having a play around with some of these. So you can customize your brand kit, which is something you've probably done already, and the AI will use that to customize anything it makes for you. Again, your company profiles, you might have one in here where you might have sort of multiple set up for your account. You've probably already done that as well. Again, just check that everything in there is relevant for the AI. The ideal customer profile is a really good one. So if you've got some target segments of your audience that you're going after, you can actually create these in here, and the AI can then tailor its communications to that particular group, and you have access to control what group that is depending on the tool you're using. You can then set a couple of goals for your marketing strategy. Again, it just helps with the AI generated content to understand the kinds of thing you're going to be wanting when you're asking for it. And then again, some things you've probably already done, but if not, you've got access to the products and services that you can upload here into the products object. And you've also got your individual user profile as well. So when it drafts an email for you, for example, it will look as if it's coming from you. So they're the settings you want to go and have a look at. What's your next question you've got for me, Amy?
So we've got, what can Copilot do, and how would a team get the most out of it?
Yeah, so the biggest thing your teams need to be aware of when using Copilot is what we call prompts. So you can't kind of just come into the text box here and just type out anything you want. At the moment, it's limited to a kind of certain set of tasks, and we call these prompts. So in time, you'll learn these and you'll be able to just quickly type them out. But if you're learning this for the first time, you're a novice to sort of AI prompts. The really nice thing about Copilot is it's given you this little button here when you're in a new chat, see more prompts. When you click that, we get a full list of what is essentially everything that Copilot can actually do. And these prompts are going to be what you're actually sort of asking it and chatting with it about. So it's broken up into different sections. You've got the generate section. Again, if there's sort of a more option, you can jump into everything it can generate. So a blog post, a blog title, knowledge-based articles if you're using them. It can actually translate text if you're creating a landing page for another country's audience, and so on and so on. It's also then got some additional sections here as well. So summarize is a really nice one. So you can summarize your records, for example. It can do some research. So you can ask it things about your data and get some really quick insights. It can create some basic reports for you as well, single object reports only for the moment, but very useful if you're asking how many contacts have I emailed this week. You can then add an object as well, so create a record to a deal or a contact. It's then got some quick links out to HubSpot sort of how-tos across Academy, and generally just asking the sort of HubSpot knowledge base. And then at the bottom, you've also got a couple of different ways to prepare for a meeting with either one of your contacts or one of your companies. So this is going to be your first port of call for you and your teams to just understand what it can do, what the limitations are, but also what's available to you, and then using these prompts within your chats within Copilot.
So yes, we would like to see some education examples of how a team might start using Copilot.
Yeah, of course. So a couple of really useful ones that certainly my clients have sort of started to use. So like I said, creating a report, although they're quite basic and single object, they're really useful ones. So you've got prompts within reporting here that we can go into. So we've got the ability to compare deals over time, counter contacts, counter tickets, generate a custom report, which your mileage may vary on what it actually produces there, but it does give you the option to be a bit more free with it. But I think the really good one is the count of deals that have been added. So when we select that prompt, you'll see it pulls in all the sort of crucial information that we need here, and it gives us a space to actually, in this case, designate a time period. But for many of the prompts, it will want you to give some additional information. So how many deals have I added, let's say, this month? See how many child records we've gone ahead and created in the account. We add that into the chat. As you can see, Copilot will do a quick bit of thinking. And in this case, it should produce us a fairly simple report and give us a bit of a rundown of how many deals we've created. In our demo account, of course, it's 0, but that will be, as you can see, a count of deals between the first of this month and the last of this month. And if you wanted to then dive in and sort of customize this report further, you can go ahead and jump into the report builder from here as well. Another useful feature is making lists. So of course, lists are very, very useful for sending out to different marketing email segments and generally just keeping the account and your segments and all of that data quite tidy. So we've got the prompt here to go ahead and generate a list. Again, it pulls in most of the information we need for the prompt, gives you the option to choose the type of list or the object for which you want that list to be created for. So let's say it's a contact list in this case. And then this purple sort of or pink highlighted text here is where you can create a list of whatever it is, properties, traits, associations, events, filters, whatever it is you need here. So again, I could go ahead and create a list of contacts that I've gone ahead and created this week, for example. Very simple prompt. Of course, you can make it as much or as little detail as you need. Copilot will go ahead and actually, in this case, work out what filters it needs for a list in order to give you the result that you've kind of asked for here. So in the first instance, it doesn't go ahead and just create a list and a list pops up in your account sort of ready to be used. What it will do is actually go through what filters do I need to create for you in order to give you the list that you want. So as you can see there, it's gone ahead and given me that group 1 filter for my list. And if that looks right, again, you can go ahead and jump into the lists tool down here. And then that list will sort of fully populate and you'll be able to use it. The final one as well that I mentioned a moment ago is with summarizing. So a lot of the time we might have, say, had an application form for someone who's applying for a couple of years' time. And at some point, of course, we're going to have to come back to that and re-engage with them nearer the sort of the time they're joining. And if we've collected a lot of data about that person, summarizing their record is a really useful way to quickly digest that information. So if I want to go ahead, for example, and just summarize all of the activity that I've had with a particular contact, I can use that option there. The prompt is pulled in again, and all I have to do is start typing the contact's name. And as you'll see, as I begin to type, it will give me suggestions for what is actually, all the contacts match that as well. So I can pull in the exact contact that I want it to summarize for me. It'll go ahead and summarize all the data. As you can see, everything in bold is kind of the crucial property bits of information, but it puts it in quite a nice sort of paragraph for you as we get asked to review Copilot. And then below we'll also get some additional options to add tasks, draft emails. We can see how many deals are attached to this contact record, the last 10 engagements we've had. We could then also go ahead and summarize the call that we had with them or the task that we had to do. So without having to navigate into the contact and find the information, Copilot has just summarized that and given me access to it all there as well.
What are agents and how can these be accessed?
Yeah, so agents are, like I mentioned, sort of something you can almost think of as somebody an AI tool that joins your team. So you'll see on the left side navigation bar where we've got all the different tools. At the bottom, we'll have the little Breeze logo, and you can jump into here and to kind of access and browse all of the different elements of Breeze. But you'll see one of our options here is agents. And if we browse the agents, we kind of get access to the 4 default ones that exist in the account at the moment. Now, these are all in varying degrees of beta, either public or private. So you will have to come and opt into the betas, and it will give you the option, if you haven't done, to go and do that using the link here. If you have done and you've been accepted and you're in the beta to try out some of these tools, then you'll be able to launch straight into them. The sort of basic rundown is the 4 kind of split up into the customer agent, which is essentially an AI chatbot that you can have embedded on your website, and it can handle those day-to-day and common queries for you. We've got the social agent, which of course is going to be brilliant for the marketing teams in giving you a social media strategy and some of that reporting to help you just consistently engage your audiences. The prospecting agent is a really good one. Kind of a salesy function, but of course, much of what we do in admissions in the first instance is very salesy. So that really allows us to be able to outreach, and communicate effectively with potential students. And then finally, the content agent, another great one for the marketing teams, where we can actually have the AI tool start to create from scratch things like landing pages and blogs for us as well.
Well, I think you've mentioned them briefly, but just touching specifically on the marketing team, what would be the best agents? Could you maybe give us a wee demonstration?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the best one, for no question, is the content agent for the marketing team. So if we launch into that, we can have a quick look at sort of what you can do here. So this kind of prioritizes what is probably and typically the longest form content that your marketing teams are having to create, and it kind of gives us the ability for the AI to do it for us. So naturally saving time, but also creating some really rich things like landing pages, podcast case studies, or blogs, but really quite quickly. So let's say we want to go ahead and create a landing page for whatever it could be, an event or just a nice place to host one of our forms. If we launch into the Create a Landing Pages tool, the AI builder asks us to select a couple of options, give it some detail, but ultimately we're kind of just giving the AI a bit of freedom to create this for us. So let's say we're running an event and we want to collect signups with this landing page. We can select that option. I'll leave all of this standard for now, but you can imagine you can describe exactly sort of what this landing page is for, describe that in the box here. You can select your customer profile if you've made one, what domain you want to create it with, and what language you're creating it within. And of course, if you don't have any customer sort of ICPs, you don't have to actually have one in here. And again, if you've got multiple domains, you can select from them. And of course, if you're making landing pages for other audiences and other languages, you can do so there as well. The final step is adding any sort of files or additional information you think might be useful. You can upload in here, or of course you can browse anything that's also already inside of HubSpot. And then we can go ahead and hit generate landing page. Now, what this will do is, depending on what domain you've selected, it will use your global content, so your headers, your logo that you've got in those sort of templates for that domain. And based on the prompt and some of the documents or files that we fed this, it will actually go ahead and generate a brand new landing page for us. So, of course, depending on things like internet connection and how advanced the prompt was, it will take a little bit longer. But ultimately, what it will do is at least give you the bare bones of a landing page that normally would have taken you a while. So we'll definitely want to resize the logo on that one, but it's given us the logo at the top. It's given us some sections. You can see it's actually anchored some of these sections as well. So we could have a contents page for people to very quickly jump to other elements on this landing page. We've got imagery, we've got previous events being highlighted, we've got some stats, we've got a video it's put in there. We've got some testimonials with some scrollable elements and so on and so on. So it creates a really nice, at worst case, starting point for you to improve it. Best case, it's kind of just done it for you, and you don't need to put in the additional sort of effort to create that.
Can we then do something similar and just touch upon kind of admissions teams and what the best agent would be for them?
Yeah, sure. So there's the nice thing about the sort of Breeze suite at the moment is that it's kind of split up into sort of two are really useful for marketing and two are really useful for admissions. So the admissions one I think that will really benefit in sort of the short term is the customer agent. So if we launch into that, the main use case that we typically see for a chatbot in general, but specifically here an AI chatbot, is when you're getting emailed every day, how much is this fee? Or when can we expect this event to be held? Those really sort of simple questions that take up 5-10 minutes of your time to answer and reply over email that could be handled really efficiently by an AI chatbot on your website. There's loads of setup you can do here. We don't have time to go into all of it, but what you'll essentially end up with is an AI chatbot that anyone on the website can kind of ask any type of question. If it has the information, it will give them the answer. If it doesn't have the information but thinks it might be relevant in some other way, you'll actually ask qualifying questions and then present maybe some more relevant information. And if it doesn't know what to do, the nice thing is it can hand off to an actual human being in terms of kind of a live chat function. So you can very quickly step in if the AI doesn't have the answer. Now, the key to making this work is within the content tab is the information that you give the AI chatbot essentially to train it on. So what we're doing here is giving it sort of knowledge bases that we might have created, website or landing pages we've created, blog articles and any files. And what we want to just make sure that's included in any of those sources is that the answers to those frequently asked questions that we're trying to get away from our sort of manual emails and have this answer are included somewhere in that. So you might have a knowledge base or a landing page that breaks down all of your different course offerings, potentially sort of breaking down fees associated, maybe how to apply for scholarships, all those really simple but questions that get asked really often. Train the AI bot on the answers using those content sources, and then it will be very quickly up to speed and be able to answer those for you as well.
Sure, a lot of teams will have this next question. How does the billing work for the intelligence features?
Yeah, so intelligence is actually billed slightly differently to your main hubs and your main subscription. It kind of see it as an add-on. So just very briefly to sort of go over, sort of how it works. So it works on a token basis, and it is an additional kind of fee on top of your current subscription model. It breaks it down into either 100 monthly credits, 1,000 or 10,000, of course, depending on how many actions you need to do. So the sort of starting point is an additional £41 a month for those 100 credits, and you can very quickly buy that from within the intelligence sort of screen. What that gives you access to is sort of three tools. Data enrichment, which is you spending tokens to fill in the gaps in your company records for data you don't have. HubSpot has a huge database of companies, and if they have that piece of information that you were missing because you didn't have it on a form or they didn't give it to you, whatever the reason was, you can use a token to enrich that record, and you will have all of the data about that company then filled in on their record. You've got a very similar thing for buyer intent as well. So this is where we can actually sort of track companies that are visiting our webpage. And based on sort of some of the criteria and the way we configure the intent tool, we can actually kind of rank those companies for whether or not they're a good fit, are they our intended segment, are they ready to buy, whatever it is. Very salesy, but very useful as well. And then the final thing we can do to spend our tokens on is form shortening as well, which if you've got particularly long application forms is a great feature, because if we already have any of the data available to us that's included in the form, it will just fill that in for them immediately. They won't even have to sort of bother with filling that out. And there's a huge amount of other things you can browse on this page as well that it can do. But that is, in a nutshell, how the billing works for those three tools.
Fantastic, thank you. Do you mind diving a bit deeper on the differences between the data enrichment and the buyer intent?
Yeah, so they are quite similar tools, sometimes confused, but we'll have a look at this screen and then I'll jump into buyer intent inside of the tool to kind of show you exactly the differences. But data enrichment, very simply, like I kind of said, is I've collected some information about a company. I'm missing some information I really want. Should I go ahead and enrich that record, spend a token, and essentially beef out and fill out the whole record for me? Now, one token is enough to do a whole record, and if for whatever reason the information changed, it will continue to enrich for you, so you don't have to keep spending tokens on each individual property. It is done on a record basis, and that's kind of as simple as that. But it's really effective if you're missing data. You don't have to do anything to go ahead and collect that data, a second or third time using something like a form. Where buyer intent differs is we get the ability, still with companies, but we get the ability to actually understand who is visiting our web pages, what type of organization are they, and depending on how we've set up our buyer intent, whether or not they're actually sort of a good fit for us, whether or not they're someone we should consider reaching out and actually actively engaging, and not just waiting for them to maybe fill out our embedded form or send us an email. Now, the buyer intent tool itself, if we jump into that, looks a little bit daunting to begin with, but it's actually quite intuitive to set up once you get your head around it. The main sort of tool is split up into three sections. The overview will start to populate once you've got all of this set up and give you top level of kind of what's happening and what companies appear to be a good fit that are visiting your website. The companies tab will then give you a really clear breakdown, a ranked sort of order breakdown of how many people are visiting your website, and then kind of rank them in whether or not they are a good fit for you. Within the filters, you can then also play around with things like time frame, traffic source, where they came from, whether or not they're part of your target market, so on and so on. But the really big thing that makes this very powerful is the configuration and how you actually set up buyer intent. So what we're actually doing here as we sort of make our way through all of the different setup bits is kind of just saying what companies or what types of companies, what characteristics are these companies that are visiting a particular domain or web page. What we're really looking for in a company that's going to be sort of useful to us. And we can create all of this different sort of criteria for that. We can auto add companies as a record straight into our account, and we can also manage exclusions as well. So there might be certain characteristics that even if everything else is met, you don't really want them in the account. Once you embed the tracking code with all this information in on whatever web page it is that you want this to sort of work for, it will then start populating each of the companies that view your page and give you a bit of an idea on whether or not they are a good fit and you want to go after them. Not something as useful in our market, if we're honest, as we are dealing with sort of parents and students, but if you're sort of wanting to sort of go out there and recruit things like a new feeder school or start to work with agencies to help you bring in these students, then a very, very useful feature to think about there.
Fantastic. Before moving on to my next question, we've had a wee question from Harriet, and I'm hoping you'll be able to answer this. So with customer enrichment and buyer intent, is this just for companies or can it be used for individual contacts?
Yeah, so it is just for companies. The main reason being that, of course, HubSpot kind of can't hold data on individual people. So it is very much aimed at that sort of business to business conversation. So it's not something we can use for our parents or students, unfortunately. But like I mentioned, there are a few use cases where if that's true for you with agencies and feeder schools, that this could become an option for you.
Amazingly, thank you so much for that. And then, yes, in terms of form shortening, when exactly would this be used?
Yeah, so form shortening, again, something as part of intelligence that uses the token model. What if you've got the budget for it, it's one of those features that you'd kind of want turned on all the time, because it means that at every opportunity when somebody is filling out one of your forms, they don't have to fill in fields we either already know about them or that the tokens can fill in the gaps for us. So depending on budget, have it on always. If not, then use it specifically on forms where we're perhaps sort of later down the road in your process, where we might have already they might have already asked for some sort of inquiry form to be submitted, or we already have some sort of data from our initial interactions with that person. Use them later on in the process where potentially some people are joining at that stage, but we don't want to give those people we've already had conversations with a massive form and they kind of go, we've already filled out half of this stuff. So yeah, depending on budget, of course, it's going to have to be something that you use in sort of that vein to actually sort of make sure that we're activating this and using it in the right way across the data enrichment and the form shortening. Again, there are options within settings to manage this. So the data enrichment settings you'll find under data management. We've got settings here for the sort of company global enrichment that we spoke about before. And then inside of tools, you'll see we've got the form shortening option in there as well. So we can toggle that on, but of course still manage which of our forms we're also shortening. You don't have to use it across every form you have in the account. You might want to just do at certain stages the forms that you need people to fill out where that becomes relevant for them.
Amazing, thank you. And then hopefully a nice and simple one to finish up on. Are there any other tools in HubSpot that utilize AI?
Yeah, so like I mentioned at the start, there are other places outside of the sort of Breeze suite and the main screen we were in earlier where AI is becoming usable within the account, and it will continue to do so. HubSpot are very invested in the world of AI. The two I want to make a sort of quick shout out to, the first one is lead scoring. So in the past, in the recent past, lead scoring was very manual. And at points, I suppose, certainly for some of our clients, was not even something everybody had the same idea on. One person's qualified lead was different to someone else's. There was no set structure on how we do that. And if there was, it becomes a very manual sort of setup. Where lead scoring now has the AI functionality makes this a breeze. So if you have access to it within the marketing tab, you'll see lead scoring, and we can go ahead and start with AI to create a lead score. Now we can do this based on either or create a contact engagement score, or we can do this based on a fit score. So are we measuring the level of engagement they're having with us, or are we actually going through sort of demographic information and seeing are they a good fit for kind of what we're after? So depending on which one you choose, of course, it will be slightly tweaked in terms of what it's looking at. But if we hit next, very simply, we get this sort of screen here where we give the score a name, whatever that's going to be. We then sort of understand what stage of our sort of lead life cycle it's going to start on. So that's just a standard property in the account that you can, of course, sort of chop and change if this language is not really the one you use internally. But ultimately, we're just going to say if someone drops into one of our sort of lead scores, then we want them to be assigned as a lead or qualified, whatever the language we use. And then which of these stages, once they get to that, are we going to say they're successfully, qualified, whatever that might be. Again, you can use the drop-down list, have your own options and select those, and then give a time frame as well. So this isn't just something where someone might have emailed us 3 years ago and now they've looked at our website, so they're a lead. This is a much tighter time frame than that to make sure that we're really engaging those people who are really engaging with us. So very sort of simple to set up. Once we do that, we hit create score. It will give you a quick sort of thing saying what it's going to do. We can hit OK. And then what this will do in the background is build a model. Well, unfortunately, there was a problem, probably because we're lacking data in our demo account. But what it will do is go ahead and build a score for you. See if I can try again while we're here. And it will create all of the criteria to kind of match people up to. Unfortunately, it's not going to for me today. But it will create a load of criteria and give all of that a different score. So if somebody was to, for example, view a page on our website, they might get an increased score of +1. If they were to reply to one of our emails, they might get a score increase of +3. And we can actually set thresholds for when a score takes them into a particular sort of stage. So if someone accumulates 30 points because they've opened some emails, viewed some web pages, submitted a form, we can then drop them into the qualified lead bracket. We can then, of course, see, or the whole team can see, exactly who we should be prioritizing with our next round of communications, marketing emails, who we should be focusing our one-to-one comms on. You'll get a list of all of the contacts as well, and you can kind of choose how we kind of arrange them. And then there are also some additional settings for how you manage the properties as well. This information does sit inside a property, so you can have it on a contacts record and very quickly see what their engagement score is, and also whether or not they're sort of high, medium, or low with the color coding there as well. The other tool I want to quickly jump into is Content Remix. So this gives you and your marketing teams the ability to take a content that already exists, preferably long form content, things like blogs, maybe a landing page, and actually remix that or create other channels from that same content. So for example, we could take a blog post and ask this tool to give us 6 social posts based on the content that was inside of that blog. So very quick demo, we'll start the remix. We'll go ahead and add our sort of master content, which, as you can see, is broadly longer form content anyway. So let's go ahead perhaps and select a particular blog post, a landing page, a case study, whatever it might be. We can also start from a brand new piece of text. We could do this from a new document file, or we could start this as well from a URL. So this could even be from your blog post. See if I've got an example I can show in here. We'll go for a landing page. So we'll add that content. What it will do is just simply pull in that landing page. You can add some source material if you want to, but otherwise we can just kind of leave it on that. And then when we hit the plus icon, we can choose from all of these other marketing channels what we want to create based on the content from our landing page here. So like I said, I might want to go ahead and create an email and maybe 2 social posts. Go ahead and hit next. Loads of setup and tweaks that you can make. You can customize kind of what it will do. But if we just sort of hit generate, see what it comes up with, what it's doing is taking the content from the landing page and it's now turning that into a marketing email we could send out, and it's turning it into 2 social posts that we can send out as well. And as quickly as that, we've turned 1 piece of content. Now we've got 4. We can click into any of these as well, customize what it says, jump to the social or marketing email tool here to personalize it further, of course, and plan out when we're going to send it. But within 30 seconds, I've created 2 social posts and an email. So a really cool tool, which if you have access to, again, is one that you should definitely sort of start to check out.
So I have conducted some resources which will be sent to you in a follow-up email. For those who missed it, there will be a recording of this webinar as well. And again, this webinar will be uploaded to YouTube. You will also be sent a list of some HubGem blogs, a couple of resources, a couple of HubSpot resources as well that I think you would find useful, and then also a link to our YouTube, which has an abundance of AI specific content, which Ollie himself has already recorded. So there is a massive list there. So please do jump on if you want to dive a wee bit deeper into any of the topics covered today. Thank you so much for that. We really appreciate it. And we hope you guys all sign up to the next HubGem webinar. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.